Hello and welcome to another video. This one, as you can see by the move count, 15 moves, is a short and sweet analysis that I played in a 30 plus 0 game on the pool. The main goal here is to show how gaining the center can lead to very quick and efficient punishment of your opponent's lack thereof, meaning their lack of control of the center. And we'll see how black actually facilitates white's control of the center. So the game was a standard Queen's Gambit declined until I took on d5. I choose to play the exchange variation. I think this sort of thing in general is quite pleasant for white. All of your pieces are quite naturally placed. And then, oops, didn't mean to do that. And then you have a few options. You can go for f3 with the idea of e4 later, or you can go with the ideas of like rook b1 and push for a minority attack on the queen side. You have several good options. So this in general is pretty comfortable, but if we think back to the first game, then you don't really want to capture with a piece, because after I played c takes d5, my opponent recaptured with a knight. And if we remember what we held into account last time, you want to gain that center with tempo, with e4. And so now, black's kind of in trouble already, just in the sense that I get a free move. And black opted to take on c3, I recaptured, so now I have this beautiful center. Okay, maybe this pawn's a little weak, and if I try to advance it, then this pawn becomes weak, but that's not really as significant because black doesn't have any way to exploit this. So if you look, neither side has any pieces developed. Black's slightly closer to being castled, but I have these beautiful central pawns that can just control everything. And this makes it difficult for black to exert any sort of pressure onto my position. So the game continues. Bishop e7, get ready to castle. Makes sense. Knight f3. b6. And I have a love-hate relationship with fianchettos. I dislike them in that, well, there are two main reasons. The first is you create what's called a color complex. A color complex is you have all the pawns fixed on one color square. So what that does is that creates weaknesses in the opposite color square. And the idea with a fianchetto is you're going to place that bishop on to that color square, so then those weak squares are controlled by that bishop. That's why one of my rules when I am working with beginners is don't play b6 or g6, or if you're white, g3 or b3, unless you're going to put a bishop there on that square. Because the weaknesses are just too much otherwise. And we'll actually see a tactic I missed. I'll be honest, because I was rushing. I didn't really look for it. Specifically because of that, because of these weak squares. Alright, so I continue with bishop d3. On a quick aside, the reason why I like the fianchetto here, I forgot to mention that, black doesn't really have another good way of getting this bishop into the game. The ways I would think of are something maybe like bishop a6 to trade off black's bad bishop for my good bishop. And if you're asking, well, how do you determine which one's your good bishop, which one's your bad bishop? And the answer is actually pretty easy. All you have to do is look at what color your pawns are on in the center. So my pawns are on dark squares, which means my light square bishop is pretty much uninhibited. I might like to play e5 at one point and have these beautiful diagonals to the king side. Whereas if you notice, my dark square bishop is kind of cramped by my pawns. The same goes for black, right? But just opposite colors. These pawns here are fixed on light squares, so this bishop can't really go anywhere except d7. So black chose to fianchetto to give this nice diagonal to the bishop. And I think that was actually a decent option here. But I think, unfortunately, black's position is already starting to crumble simply because of that knight takes d5 move. I think that was the first step in the wrong direction. Okay. Alright, so black castles. I play e5. I want to gain that space, and I'm looking for a Greek gift sacrifice of sorts. The Greek gift sacrifice, for those who aren't aware, is usually a combination that in some way or another involves of bishop takes h2 or h7, depending on what color. King takes, then knight here, and then the queen swings over. If you're unsure when this works and when it doesn't, in this case it doesn't work because black just takes my knight, there are three general guidelines. One, can black put a knight on f6 or f8, or is a knight already there, because obviously if the h7 pawn is defended, then it doesn't work. And the reason why you ask, can it go there, is because your mate threat will be on h7. So if black, say, has a knight here and the rook's here, and you try to do the Greek's gift sacrifice, it won't work because knight f8, and now the square's covered and there's no mate threat. The second main thing is you ask, can black play bishop f5? Because again, bishop f5 would cover that h7 square. And the answer here is no. So right now, for a Greek gift, we don't have a knight that can go to either f6 or f8, because e5 controls f6, and this rook is on f8, so it would take several moves to get a knight to f8. So we have that going for us. Bishop f5 isn't possible, because that is blocked by the pawn on e6, and it looks like he's going to put the bishop on b7 anyways. And the only issue we have now is, alright, well, if I after bishop takes h7, if I play knight g5, well, black will just take it. So I could have even looked, well, I did, and you'll see. After black plays c5 here, I missed a tactic. Just straight up, I missed a tactic. Bishop d5 here, and this rook is kind of stuck, so black has to sacrifice a piece with something like knight c6 just to save the rook. And this is just totally winning, and I tunnel visioned on my Greek gift idea, so I missed it. And keep in mind, too, my position is still perfectly good here, because I see black's idea, which you'll see in something like the Grunfeld or other things, where he wants to pile up pressure on that d4 square. Because if black chooses to trade, let's say I castle, black trades, well, let's play knight c6 first. Then something like rook e1. Now after this trade, this pawn is weak. And note that there's a tactical theme here where it looks like I am blundering this pawn, and that black can just take it now. But notice at the end I have bishop takes f7 check, and we're winning the queen. But that's something you'll see a lot too. So keep an eye out for these types of themes that you may have in your games. So going back, I just missed bishop e4. I could have hit the rook and then won a knight, or won the... Well, no, I guess I would have won the knight, because bishop b7 just blunders the bishop too. But I tunnel vision on my Greek gift idea with h4. So the idea now is that, okay, well, I want to take on h7, and after knight check, now, if black captures that bishop, so we'll just show in the game. Because right after knight c6, I do take on h7. King takes, here. Now, in this case, the king goes back to g8, and then we see the game where I follow up with queen h5, takes, I have the mate threat here that's hard to stop, plays f6 to try and create some kind of space for the king, but then after g6, now the king is stuck here, and this mate threat on h8 or h7, if, say, rook e8, then you would play to h8. That's unstoppable. There's nothing you can do. But going back, let's change the move order a bit just to see how things can change. So let's say at this point, black opts to take the bishop. We don't want to take with the bishop here, because then we're keeping this h-file closed, and that's the whole reason why we played h4 instead of castling. So you'll take with the pawn, and then black king has two options. Obviously, if king g8, we're going to play queen h5, and then it's lights out, just like what we saw in the game. If black instead opts for king g6, then we can be particularly nasty. Well, yeah, we just have a very quick mate here. After here, calculate this real quick. Looks like... No, it's not quite mate. Almost, but not quite. Oh, let me see. I didn't anticipate going into this line when we started. I can play here. Yeah, then king here, then queen here is mate. Okay, it took me a second to find that because I didn't expect to analyze that, but it's okay. So yeah, you can see how opening the H file is also suboptimal. So let's say at this point, black doesn't go back to H8, or G8 rather. And note that h8 is just mate in 2 after queen here. Check, and then mate. So let's say an immediate king g6. And this is where you have two options. You can either play h5, or my preferred option is queen d3 check. So notice now, you can't go to h6 or h5, because then queen h7 is really annoying, and then you get mated. So what are black's options? Well, you're kind of stuck playing f5. So then you take on passant. And after black recaptures, I guess probably with the king. I don't know. I feel like black should just resign at this point, to be honest. Queen f3 check. Only legal move. h5 check. Only legal move. And then this is where things are starting to get highly unpleasant. So let's see. Should we take on here or go here? Let's say knight here, double check. Double check is good because then black is forced to move the king. Check. If g6, then mate's pretty good. After, let's put it on the board. Check. Mate. Notice that this square is covered by the knight. So if we go back, then we just win the queen, and this is over. There might be a checkmate of some sort here, but I see a winning a queen, and that to me is sufficient. So we can see how this entire thing works out horribly for black. Let's just go through one last thing. Let's say after king g8, queen h5, black plays rook e8 to attempt to get out of there. There's actually a cute little mating theme that you'll see quite commonly. And that's thanks to this pawn we have on e5 controlling the f6 square. So we'll have queen f7, only legal move, check, only legal move, check, only legal move, mate. So it's pretty easy to calculate these ideas when every line is forced. And you show how the complete disarray of black's pieces leads to his demise. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to show this interesting idea with the Greek gift theme. Don't look at my time management. Oop, that's very bad. Use more time in your games, don't be me. Because if I had used more time, I probably wouldn't have missed. Yeah, because I spent about 40 seconds. If I had spent a little longer, I probably would have seen bishop e4. Don't be me. Don't play fast. Use your time. Alright, that's about it. If you guys have any questions or you want to know anything, leave it down in the comments section, and then leave a like or a dislike to tell me how much you love or hate my content. Thank you guys, and have a good day.